I'm Anna Meredith. I'm a composer. I write electronic music, but also acoustic music, so music for orchestras and instruments. And last October and November, I went to China, to Hangzhou on the east coast of China, as part of the British Council and PRS Foundation Musicians in Residence scheme. So I was one of 5 musicians who all went to different second-tier cities in China.
My name is Sid Peacock and I'm a Northern Irish-born composer based in Birmingham. I was incredibly fortunate to be chosen by British Council and PRSF to go to Chongqing. When I arrived, it felt like arriving into somewhere that was having its revolution, like the Industrial Revolution right now, and somewhere which was totally happening. Like this was the place, this is the time.
I'm Sam Genders and I'm a songwriter with an alternative pop project called Diagrams. I was incredibly excited when I found out that I would be going to China. I think just from the possibility of having such an interesting life experience for starters.
I think the whole experience was really positive for me. I'd never really been on my own for that amount of time before, and certainly not in that kind of environment.
My experience of performing there, on every occasion I did it really, was of a very kind of warm, supportive, enthusiastic reaction from people. You know, how much of that was because of the music and how much of it was just the novelty factor, I don't know, but it felt great.
My name's Arun Ghosh and I'm a clarinetist, composer and music educator. My aims going out there to Wuhan, which is a city of 20 million people, was to get a sense of the music, be a real part of the music scene there. The 3 main projects I ran were a traditional music project, a rock and roll project and an education project. The traditional music project was with the Byunjong at the Hubei Provincial Museum. Those are ancient ceremonial bells and I wrote new music for them and learnt some of their music. The work I did at Vox Livehouse was with a rock and roll team. We brought together a new band, wrote new music, performed it, recorded it. And finally, I ran an education project at Wuhan Conservatory of Music, working with students there, discussing and explaining how I write Indo jazz.
My name is Oliver Coates. I play the cello and I produce electronic music. I wanted to go to Hong Kong and challenge the way I work in a new environment and to push myself and break out of familiar modes. When I arrived in Hong Kong, I found many artists were restless to make new work, and quickly I met an enormous cross-section of musicians working in different areas in Hong Kong, and I really enjoyed that. We had a lot of emotional late nights and a lot of examining of how to make the artwork kind of potent and how to make it relevant.
I think it was really exciting and inspirational for everybody involved. China is a great place to be as a musician. It's opening up, people are wanting to be very creative. You may think that it's all quite poppy music, what you see in the TV coming out of there, but actually there's a great underground scene of people being very experimental.
The way I was received out there was quite interesting. At first, the teachers at the conservatory were quite reticent because they weren't used to letting the students take creative direction. They were very used to almost telling the students what to do, and that's how Chinese music educational culture has been. I came there with a very different approach, wanting to hear the students' ideas, wanting to see what kind of musical things they would come out with on their own. And so, at first, that was a hard-going process, but actually everybody warmed to it.
I was really happy to go into 4 different universities and work closely with young students who were writing music. I found that the cello was a very effective way of breaking down barriers and brokering new relationships, and it does have this, just in pure sound alone, this way of bringing people together. And soon there were quite a lot of gigs and quite a lot of interesting happenings that I seemed to be part of.
If I was giving advice to British musicians going there, I think the main thing I would say is just be flexible about what you're doing, how you might go about achieving it, and be prepared to go with the flow a little bit.
The single most important thing I learned is to be messy, to throw yourself into any situation, especially with new encounters and new culture, because it can inspire other people to do the same.
I'm used to here being, in the UK, being really flexible about what a project's going to be and talking to people about what might work practically. And I think there was an expectation there that it might be better if I am the artist, this is my vision. And I think maybe keeping that stuff, keeping those concerns or practicality stuff to yourself, or finding a couple of people to talk to. But in terms of what you do, your interaction with most of the people you work with, present yourself as much as I am an artist, this is my vision, as you possibly can.
It's inspired me in terms of what could be possible with collaboration. You know, I have contacts there now who I can get in touch with and, you know, suggest, oh, do you fancy doing this? You know, what about this? And it's made me think, oh, so if I can collaborate with people in China, I can collaborate with people anywhere. So in that sense, I feel kind of enthused about what could be possible.
I found while I was in China that there's massive parallels between Indian music and Chinese music in terms of the scales that are used, the sentimentality of the melodies, the emotion that's there. And so the things I found myself naturally writing while I was in China really work here. And I'm starting to find that I really enjoy performing them with my band, and they're definitely going to find their way onto my album that comes out next year.
The trip to Hong Kong was a turning point for me, totally re-examining my relationship with music and with people on the other side of the world. So I have made contacts for life and people I talk to every day.
China's culture is massive. Its music is much more than we think it is, and we have so much to learn from it.
And when the night comes on, all of us go down.